You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty, and welcome to the show. It is Friday, April 3rd, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. That's right, folks, we made it to the weekend. So glad you're out there listening, working hard at whatever you're doing or just relaxing. We're here to bring you the next 2 hours of news, interviews, music, comedy, opinion, rants, data, and more, all by, for, and about the cannabis community. We're so glad that you're a part of this. We hope you're sharing this information with everyone you know. You can follow me as Radical Russ on Twitter and Facebook, as well as Pinterest. Got some great data graphs that I put out there from time to time. Also, for those of you who like to meet me in person, I will be at the High Times Cannabis Cup in Denver, Colorado over the 420 weekend. That's April 18th, 19th, and 20th, 3 days at the Cannabis Cup. And I've made a new poster, one for each day. If you want to get a new 13 by 19 inch glossy poster from 420 Radio and the Russ Belville Show, they will be debuting at the Cannabis Cup. I've got my marijuana civil rights poster. It's been redesigned to be easier to read. We've also got the marijuana flag poster, the one with all the quotes from the U.S. presidents on hemp and marijuana. And we've got the new version of the Marijuana States of America poster. This one is awesome, folks. Every marijuana law, from paraphernalia to DUID, medical marijuana to decriminalization, CBD only, and paraphernalia laws, and everything else in between, all on one handy multicolor map. Also contains a guide to all the medical marijuana states and CBD states and when they passed their medical marijuana or CBD law. It's all the information I've got, all crammed onto one 13 by 19 poster. The 3 posters will be available at the High Times Cannabis Cup. They're $5 a piece, or you can get the set of all 3 for $10. So check me out at the 420 Radio booth at the High Times Cannabis Cup. When we get back from the cup, we'll also put those posters for sale on the 420 Radio shop. That's 420radio.org/shop, where you can order them. And of course, you'll have to cover the shipping, but we can ship those out to you as well. But that won't be until after the cup, coming up here on April 20th. 18th, 19th, and 20th, I should say. Also, I will be in Denver the week prior to the Cannabis Cup. I'll be leaving next week on Thursday, so we won't have any live shows on Thursday or Friday as I'm driving across the Intermountain West to get back to Colorado. But don't you worry, I'm not taking anything or anyone with me who's taking anything with me as we traverse Idaho and Wyoming. And yes, I've learned my lesson. We're skipping past Utah. No Utah for me. All right, coming up on today's show, we got our 420 Radio news to start things off, followed by a look at a violent robbery at a Tacoma pot shop that shows exactly why the feds need to get off their ass and legalize marijuana banking in this country. We've also got a look at the drug war data mines. There's a story about hash oil explosions. We're going to actually look up the data. How many hash oil explosions are they, and are they really that big of a concern? We're also going to have time for an extended radical rant. I mentioned that marijuana Bill of Rights poster. I'm going to read you your marijuana consumer's Bill of Rights so you can understand how the Constitution has all sorts of exceptions when it comes to us marijuana consumers. All that's coming up in hour 1, followed by hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. It's a potpourri show. We'll take all callers, all topics in hour 2. Plus, Herb Thrasher will be calling in with our daily Toker tunes for Rockin' Friday. And speaking of Rockin' Friday, 8 o'clock Pacific, Herb Thrasher for 2 hours of rockin' metal, followed by Timmy Harris, Big Daddy Fink, the Funky Roller Rink, live tonight at 10 p.m. Pacific in its new live time slot. We'll be every Friday night live with Big Daddy Fink. All right, the news is next. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio. Tune in, turn on, get highly educated. Are you tired of storing your herb in back alley baggies? Then keep your herb fresh and protected with Pottles. Pottles are airtight and odor-free. Not to mention they're reusable, BPA-free, and UV-resistant. Pottles come in a variety of sizes, styles, and colors, so go check out Pottles at mypottles.com. Use the code STASH to get an additional 10% off. Again, that's mypottles.com, mypottles.com, and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
I like funky music, baby. I like funky music, yeah.
Hey, this is Big Daddy, and I want you to check out my show, The Funky Roller Ring, right here on 420 Radio, because we love us some funky music.
I like it like that.
Funky music, yeah. Funky music,
Support for 420 Radio comes from Kick-Ass Cannabis and Veggies, a guide to gardening with nature, authored by Kip Zonderkopf. Based on the ethos that a living soil is the foundation of a thriving garden, Kick-Ass Cannabis and Veggies is your guide to naturally growing resinous buds and nutrient-rich veggies. Get the ebook now with instant download at kickassorganics.com. Previews available on Amazon, iTunes, Nook, Google Play, Kobo, and many other online retailers. It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Friday, April 3rd, 2015. Ann Arbor, Michigan's annual celebration of all things cannabis, known as the Hash Bash, returns this Saturday. Thousands of marijuana advocates from throughout Michigan and beyond are expected to swarm the University of Michigan Diag at noon for a 2-hour rally featuring speakers ranging from comedian Tommy Chong to Lansing Mayor Virg Bernero, as well as activist John Sinclair, for whom the original rally was held in 1972. The annual event, which organizers call a Speak Out and Smoke Down protest, has a long history in Ann Arbor, now in its 44th year. Serving as the political backdrop for this year's festivities is the prospect of a 2016 ballot initiative to fully legalize marijuana in Michigan, not just for medical purposes. Representatives from the newly formed Michigan Comprehensive Cannabis Law Reform Initiative Committee will be discussing their plans at the rally. A spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Justice recently told the Los Angeles Times that a bipartisan amendment passed by Congress last year prohibiting DOJ from spending any money to undermine state medical marijuana laws doesn't prevent it from prosecuting people for medical marijuana or seizing their property. The statement comes as the agency continues to target people who are complying with their state medical marijuana law. This insubordination is occurring despite the fact that members of Congress in both parties were clear that the intent with the amendment was to protect medical marijuana patients and providers from federal prosecution and forfeiture. Last May, Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher and Democratic Congressman Sam Farr offered an amendment to a spending bill prohibiting the Justice Department from spending any money in 2015 to prevent states, quote, from implementing their own state laws that authorize the use, distribution, possession, or cultivation of medical marijuana, end quote. Black farmers are now joining the debate over Florida's low-THC medical marijuana law passed last year. They're calling for changes to the law, saying its requirements to participate in the industry are unfair. Eugene Montz is among a small number of black farmers who would meet the strict guidelines under Florida's low-THC pot law to become one of just 5 dispensing organizations chosen. Owner of Mont Farms, he's been in business for 37 years. Under the law, qualifying nurseries are those that have been in business for at least 30 years continuously and produce at least 400,000 plants. Howard Gunn, who heads the state's Black Farmers Agriculturalists Association, says due to discriminatory lending practices over the years, you'll find very few black farmers who meet the criteria. Farmer Mott says he has no intention of applying to be able to grow and dispense the non-euphoric cannabis, but for those who are interested, he believes it should be fair across the board for all farmers. Colorado's marijuana tourists quickly run into a harsh reality. Most hotels and ski condos prohibit indoor smoking of any kind, never mind the kind. Enter Sean Roby and his new website, Bud and Breakfast. Roby aims to make his site the Airbnb of marijuana-friendly lodging, connecting visitors with homeowners willing to let their guests partake of legal marijuana. The site has about 50 listings from around the globe, with many in Colorado, and is an outgrowth of Roby's existing Taste of Travel company. Among the current Colorado offerings, a loft in the trendy Denver Highlands neighborhood, tents near Pagosa Springs, renowned for its naturally heated mineral waters, and sunny room with an attached rooftop deck overlooking Boulder's famed Flatirons. The site also features homes in Hawaii, Alaska, and Uruguay. Listings are available only in places that have legalized either recreational or medical marijuana. Pain, insomnia, nausea, and some psychological conditions are among the health issues medical marijuana is used to treat, but the drug can come with frustrating side effects like dizziness, dry mouth, and telltale red eyes. Another drug that's been in use since the 1970s, however, is showing promise for treating similar conditions, and it's known for not having many side effects. Fenofibrate, aka Tricor, is currently used to treat high cholesterol. The link between the two drugs has to do with the way they bind to cells, Popular Science reports. Compounds in fenofibrate adhere to cannabinoid receptors in some cell membranes, just as the compounds in marijuana do. In the lab, scientists found that fenofibrate made cells with these receptors behave in the same way marijuana does. The discovery could pave the way for a new class of pot-like drugs, researchers say. 420 Radio News for Friday, April 3rd, 2015. I'm Russ Belville. 420 Radio, the world's voice of marijuana legalization. Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool. The fingerboard extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The fingerboard extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The fingerboard extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And here in the Pacific Northwest, a scary headline from KIROTV.com that reports a violent robbery at Tacoma pot shop caught on camera. And it's a video only feed, no audio on the feed, but two men broke into this Tacoma pot shop. This was a violent takedown and robbery. The surveillance video was shown on the news. It was the Terra Healing Center on Pacific Avenue South in Tacoma. Justin Tyree says he feels like the shop was targeted. Tyree said he believes that robbers are under the impression that because the business sells marijuana, it has a lot of cash in its till. It was the clerk's first night on the job when the robbery occurred Thursday night. The video shows two men who didn't bother to cover their faces struggling with the clerk, first punching him and then throwing him to the floor. Then they got into the till, stole $550, a phone, and the keys to the shop. And unfortunately for the clerk, he was not even supposed to be at work that night. He was covering someone else's shift. According to the owner, they taped him up, punched him in the face, gagged him, stuffed a plastic bag inside his mouth, and taped his mouth. The employee did not have to go to the hospital, but was clearly shaken up. And everyone is just happy that the two men in the robbery didn't have any weapons on them, or it could have been worse. And when it comes to these kind of robberies, this just once again highlights the dysfunction we have in this country dealing with the states that have legalized medical or recreational marijuana. And that dysfunction has to do with the fact that it's still federally prohibited. And that federal prohibition then interfaces with the federal banking laws, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, the Securities Exchange Commission even gets involved in some of this stuff, all having to do with not allowing banking from the legal marijuana businesses. And a lot of this, even IRS gets involved when the 280E is kicked in. And all of these federal statutes are predicated on the fact that marijuana, federally speaking, is illegal. It's completely illegal. It doesn't matter what Colorado or Washington have to say about it. It doesn't matter what the voters of Oregon or Alaska have to say about it. It's federally illegal. So you're not allowed to deduct the taxes that the expenses you would normally deduct on your taxes. You're not allowed to open checking accounts and savings accounts. You're not allowed to make electronic transactions and pay your employees through electronic deposits and transfers. None of that is available to you as a marijuana business. And thus these marijuana businesses end up being all cash enterprises. Perfect targets for strong arm robberies. And this just endangers our neighborhoods, endangers the people working at these pot shops, and of course the customers who might want to shop there. And it's also kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy for the law enforcement types who say that marijuana attracts crime and attracts violence to set up a perfect scenario for crime and violence to happen. And then they'll use that to justify why marijuana should not be illegal. It's far past time for the federal government to get out of the way of the states that wish to set their priorities on marijuana enforcement and to allow banking services to occur for them just in the name of public health. Now, and public safety for that matter. Now, there are bills in the federal Congress to address this. Representative Blumenauer, among others, has been key in this. Representative Polis as well, in putting forth bills that would allow the states that have passed marijuana legalization or reform to have access to certain banking activities. But these bills are stalled. They're not getting much traction. Everybody's afraid to put the federal stamp of approval on any sort of marijuana legalization scheme. So we remain in this kind of gray area in these legal states and these medical states. All of these companies trying things like cashless ATMs and debit services to get around these problems. But it's only a stopgap measure. The violence will continue and will escalate as more marijuana shops are opened and more people recognize the criminal opportunities that an all-cash business provides for them. Now, it would be quite simple to solve this problem. President Obama or his Attorney General both have the power under the Controlled Substances Act to deschedule marijuana. They could remove marijuana completely from the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Now, that does not automatically legalize marijuana in all 50 states. Every one of the 50 states has their own version of the Controlled Substances Act for their state. So if Arkansas still wants to keep marijuana prohibited, Oklahoma still wants to keep marijuana prohibited, there's nothing stopping them from keeping it prohibited if the federal government were to drop marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act. Now, one complication there is the fact that the United States is a signatory to the UN conventions on narcotic drugs that require it to have some control over cannabis. So in that case, marijuana could be dropped from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Much of these federal regulations having to do with taxation, securities, insurance, banking, and so forth are predicated on the notion of stopping Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drug traffickers, dealers, and producers. Once we get down to Schedule 3, the requirements are far less stringent, and banking could occur for these companies involved in marijuana businesses if marijuana were a Schedule 3 federal substance. That doesn't automatically open it up for everyone to be using marijuana. Consider that anabolic steroids and synthetic marinol and marijuana pills are Schedule 3 substances, and you can still get into quite a bit of trouble if you're caught using those without a prescription. But any one of those are actions the government could take to help keep us safe.
From now on, you will speak only when spoken to.
All right, folks, it's 4:20 in the Mountain Time Zone. Our friends in Denver, Colorado, getting ready for the Cannabis Cup, getting ready for their big 420 celebration, opening up their little bud and breakfast. That's good on you, Colorado. Let's celebrate the freedom that we all deserve. We'll be back after these messages with a look at hash oil explosions versus deep fried turkey fires. You can get 420 Radio on the go with our Shoutcast stream for all internet-enabled media players. Go to rad-r.us/420shout or just click the Shoutcast icon below the live radio feed at 420radio.org. Are you in the market for portable vaporizers now? Get online to vapes.buzz, the quick and easy link to portablevaporizers.now.com. Vapes.buzz has everything you are looking for, including vape pens, herbal vaporizers, e-juice, parts, accessories, and more. Visit vapes.buzz and use promo code 420radio to get 10% off your online purchase, or just give them a call at 866-264-2415. Vapes.buzz. Get vaping, baby!
Funky roller ring.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening, Groovy Cats? This is your Funk Master of Ceremonies, Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, right here at the Funky Roller Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Your home of soul, funk, and disco, baby.
Funky-licious.
There's always a party at the Funky Roller Ring.
Get.buzz. .buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at a headline I found on U.S. News and World Report that says, hash oil explosions prompt proposals to change rules on home production in legal pot states. Yes, we're going to get into it, the BHO explosion phenomenon. This, of course, Gene Johnson from AP is reporting on this as well with Kristen Wyatt. And this has just been a lot of scaremongering about how these how serious a problem the hash oil explosions have become. Now, according to the report, in Colorado, 30 people were injured last year in 32 butane explosions involving hash oil, nearly 3 times the number reported throughout 2013. Okay, so in 2013, then, we must have had around 10 explosions. And in 2014, we had 32. Okay, so in the span of a couple years, over 40 of these explosions. We've had similar explosions happen here in Oregon and in Washington State, happening in California, and even in states where marijuana is illegal. We're hearing about hash oil explosions. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that some people are just learning that this is something they can do. They're picking up off a YouTube video. They see someone mention hash oil, and the fact that marijuana remains illegal provides incredible incentive to make this hash oil on the sly. You can take useless trim, excess marijuana after you've manicured the buds for sale, and you can blast butane through a tube, collect the goo that comes out the end,
evaporate off the butane, and you've got something that can sell in some places back east for as much as $100 a gram. I've heard $50 a gram, heard $75 a gram, even as much as $100 per gram. Out here in the West Coast, $20, $25, $30 a gram is about the average going price. The removal of prohibition and the increase of marijuana production in just a few states, while it remains illegal in all the others, creates this great disparity that leads to this incredible profit motive. So it is a problem. It is something we need to be concerned about. In fact, I'm always concerned when anybody wants to use any explosive gases in their home in a residential setting. It doesn't matter what they're putting together. If it's got the potential to cause an explosion or a fire, it's something we should be concerned about in a residential setting. But let's get some perspective. Another type of home explosion that has increased over the years has to do with deep fat turkey fires. You know about these? Where people make these great big propane-fueled deep fat fryers, and they'll put in a turkey and fry that up for Thanksgiving. Going to the drug war data mines here, I went to the National Fire Protection Association, the authority on fire, electrical, and building safety, NFPA.org. And the NFPA discourages the use of outdoor gas-fueled turkey fryers that immerse the turkey in hot oil. They use a substantial quantity of cooking oil at high temperatures, and units currently available for home use pose a significant danger that hot oil will be released at some point during the cooking process. In addition, the burners that heat the oil can ignite spilled oil. The use of turkey fryers by consumers can lead to devastating burns, other injuries, and destruction of property. NFPA urges those who preferred fried turkey to seek out professional establishments, specialty food retailers, and restaurants for preparation of the dish. But nobody's calling for it to be banned, are they? Nobody's saying, oh my God, we need to have some new regulations to deal with the rash of turkey fire explosions. Deep fat fried turkey. Nobody's calling for that to be illegal. Now, in comparison to the 30, 40, 50 that were mentioned over the past couple years with BHO explosions, according to the USFA, a department of FEMA from our own government, points out that for each year between 2009 and 2011, an estimated 1,900 residential building fires were reported due to fire departments in the United States on Thanksgiving Day, causing 5 deaths, 25 injuries, and $28 million in property loss. One day, Thanksgiving Day, just one day, 1,900 fires nationwide. Compared to what were we mentioning again? 50, 60 BHO explosions over the span of a few years, 2-3 years. Not just one day, years. So yes, BHO explosions are something we should be concerned about. But until someone starts talking about instituting as severe a regulatory process for deep fried turkeys, it's time for everyone to just back off a little bit, take a deep breath, and get some perspective. I'll accept laws on BHO that match whatever the laws are on deep fried turkeys. That only seems fair.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the TuneIn Radio app for all mobile platforms. Go to rad-r.us/420tunein or just click the TuneIn Radio icon below the live radio feed on 420radio.org. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
There's so much I worry about as a mom. Stephen Harper thinks that organized crime should continue to profit from marijuana prohibition. Imagine regulating marijuana like alcohol and cigarettes with a strong and clear educational message, making it more difficult for my kids and your kids to access. Drug dealers don't ask for ID. Stephen Harper does not have the kind of judgment we need to protect our children, authorized by the Normal Women's Alliance of Canada.
Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
And one major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
All right, welcome back, everyone. An extended Radical Rant today where I wanted to talk to you about the Marijuana Consumers' Bill of Rights. As marijuana becomes legalized in various U.S. states, some citizens mistakenly believe that means they have full constitutional rights. Here is your guide to the U.S. Bill of Rights as it applies to marijuana consumers in the United States of America. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, unless ganja is its holy sacrament, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, unless it is advertising for state legal marijuana, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble until they smoke marijuana, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances about marijuana policy that will be mocked and ignored. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed unless they use marijuana, because drug addicts aren't allowed to have ammo and firearms. Amendment 3. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. However, electronic agents of the state may be placed in an owner's vehicle while on the owner's property without the consent of the owner for the purposes of recording the time, location, and duration of travel if the owner grows marijuana. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated unless the smell of marijuana is detected, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, such as the smell of marijuana and the sound of furtive movements, supported by oath or affirmation by police who lie and plant drugs, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized, such as third-floor apartment, black mail, and cash and drug purchased assets. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, except when marijuana sales are cultivation, trafficking, conspiracy, and possession charges. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself other than what his urine and blood say about himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law that declares marijuana consumers property guilty of being drug proceeds until proven innocent. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation, other than the homes, cars, cash, and businesses of marijuana consumers duly forfeited. Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial within at least 4 years by an impartial jury purged of anyone who supports marijuana legalization of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, except drug dogs and the DEA's Special Operations Division, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor who aren't allowed to say the words medical marijuana, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense, who will be forced to plea bargain because mandatory minimum sentencing. Amendment 7. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20 and is not related to marijuana, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law, or if a state jury acquitted a marijuana dispensary owner. Amendment 8. Excessive bail over $550,000 shall not be required, nor excessive fines over $1,000 per day be imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted, where depriving a disabled person of life-saving medical marijuana is not considered cruel, and denying First Amendment rights to advocate for marijuana legalization is not considered unusual. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution written by hemp farmers in an agrarian economy of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, which in no way includes the right to farm hemp. And Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, such as the regulation of personal farming, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people, other than the power of the states to regulate the personal use of marijuana. This has been your Marijuana Consumer's Guide to the Bill of Rights. I'm Russ Belville. All right, that's the Marijuana Bill of Rights poster text, and you can get a 13 by 19 glossy version of that poster at the High Times Cannabis Cup in Denver on the 420 weekend, April 18th through the 20th. We'll have them for sale on the 420 Radio shop as well at 420radio.org/shop. Check that out after the 420 weekend. We're back with more of the Russ Belville Show right after this.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the Ustream video app for Android and iPhone. Go to rad-r.us/420Ustream or just click the Ustream app icon for Android or iPhone below the live radio feed at 420radio.org. At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
Prohibition Stories. As a public service, the Russ Belville Show reminds you that smoking marijuana does not make one stupid. However, some stupid people do smoke marijuana, and Prohibition is always waiting for another victim. Learn your lesson from today's Stupid Prohibition Stories.
With your Stupid Prohibition Stories, I'm old-timey 1920s radio reporter Freddie Farrock. This just in, a 27-year-old was charged with marijuana dealing after admitting he was a marijuana dealer to a county police officer during a traffic stop, the St. Louis County, Missouri Prosecuting Attorney's Office said Friday. Back in July 2014, a police officer pulled over James Redmond for having improper license plates. When the officer approached the vehicle, he could smell marijuana in the vehicle. Redmond admitted to smoking marijuana after leaving a bar and told the officer he placed it in the center console. The officer searched the console and found a glass pipe, an e-cigarette, capsules with a dark liquid that smelled like marijuana, and over $1,500 in cash. When the officer asked where the money came from, Redmond responded, quote, "I'm not gonna lie, I sell marijuana," end quote. Redmond went on to say he had a book bag full of marijuana in the back seat. The officer looked through the book bag and found 2 large bags and 1 small bag filled with marijuana, a digital scale, a bag with empty baggies, and a blue container containing marijuana with the label on the lid reading "Marijuana Grown in Colorado." Redmond was charged with possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute, a felony. I'm Freddie Farrock with your Stupid Prohibition Stories! Oh my God. You know, the only thing this kid was lacking, he's 27. I can't call him a kid. The only thing this guy was lacking was a big flashing sign on his car. Get your dope! Get your dope! Get your dope! Oh my goodness. You want to tell him about the time you cheated on your taxes too? Want to bring that up there, Mr. Redmond? Jesus. Okay, let's make this a teachable moment, shall we? First of all, let's figure out exactly what the penalty is for possession with intent to distribute. You can always go out to normal.org, and here's a handy tip in using the Normal website. If you type in normal.org/laws/ the 2-letter abbreviation for your state, it'll take you to the state page at the Normal website that has all the information you ever want to know. So I'm going to normal.org/laws/MO for Missouri, M-O. And you can get the information on state laws, normal chapters, lawyers in that area, and so forth. And when we go to the state laws, we find that the trafficking and distribution of marijuana less than 5 grams, Mr. Redmond is looking at a felony with incarceration up to 7 years and $5,000. Of course, he had, what was it? 2 small bags and 1 large bag? 1 large bag, 2, what was it? How many bags? 2 large bags and 1 small bag, and a blue container with marijuana grown in Colorado. So I can assume it's probably over 5 grams. The next level is 5 grams to 30 kilograms. That's about 66 pounds, is it? Let's assume he had less than 66 pounds. I think he probably did with just that amount, if it was stored in the center console and in the back book bag. 5 grams to 30 kilograms in Missouri is a felony. Incarceration 5 to 15 years. Now that range lets me know that there's a kind of a minimum there, right? 5 to 15. He's going to get at least 5. $20,000 maximum fine. Also, he had some of those Oils, he had some capsules with some marijuana-smelling oil. If that is hash or a concentrate, the penalties are the same for marijuana. So at least he's lucky enough to not have been in one of those felony concentrate states like Texas. He'll also get charges for the possession of paraphernalia. Those are misdemeanors with a year. So, Class B felony, 5 to 15 years, $5 to $20,000 fine in the state of Missouri. You can learn more about all of these marijuana laws on my new Marijuana States of America poster. We'll have that for sale at the High Times Cannabis Cup as well. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll round things up with some more here at the Russ Belville Show. Stay tuned.
Five of the last 9 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 9 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 two-term presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show. Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Tonight, I appeared on Jeopardy and, well, how do I say this? I lost. Not only did I lose, I lost to this guy. That's right. I lost to Cheech Marin. Cheech of Cheech and Chong fame, pot smoking star of blunt burning films like Up in Smoke, Next Smoke, and Still Smoking. He not only beat me, he crushed me. When I heard I was up against Cheech Marin, I admit I thought his reflexes would be slow, not to mention his synapses perhaps, but I was so very, very wrong.
Sky as Conan the Barbarian on What's Best in Life, to crush your enemies and to hear the lamentation of their women. Cheech.
Who is Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes. Cheech again.
Who is Al Pacino?
Right. Cheech.
What is Pillow Talk?
Right. Cheech.
What is Never Never Land?
Yes. Cheech.
What is Camelot?
Yes. Cheech.
What is a baster?
Yes, you're the winner today. Your charity will get $50,000, and Aisha and Anderson's charity $25,000 each.
So I admit it, I lost to Cheech Marin. I tied for second with comedian Aisha Taylor, who is also a great player. And joining us now is the 2-time Jeopardy champion, the man who crushed me, Cheech Marin. Cheech, congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much, Anderson.
Have people just been congratulating you? Do they pour out into the streets to congratulate you? Because people have been mocking me mercilessly since this thing was aired tonight.
It's tough when you can't hit a big league curveball, man. That's the separation point.
Reforming America's marijuana prohibition laws takes education, lobbying, and voting. From Washington, D.C. to your state capital to your city hall, marijuana law reform involves all levels of civic life. Learn how you can make your impact with elected officials as we take a look at our government at work.
Welcome back, everyone. Sometimes our government at work is working against us, and in one state in particular, this is clearly obvious. That's the state of Arizona, where Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery has been a steadfast opponent of any sort of marijuana reform in Arizona. He was an opponent of the medical marijuana law and has taken every opportunity he can to twist that law and any precedents he finds within that law to give the shaft to medical marijuana consumers in that state. He was recently at a town hall debate. This was a town hall debate on cannabis legalization in Arizona, and he took some questions from the audience, and one questioner in particular caught the attention of the Free Thought Project, which posted the following video. We'll play this audio for you, where a Vietnam veteran named Don Ream confronted the Maricopa County attorney about his use of the term potheads to describe medical marijuana patients. Let's give you the audio from Free Thought Project. This is Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery speaking to a Vietnam veteran.
Mr. Montgomery, thank you for your service. I'm a Vietnam veteran myself. Today is a special day for me. I will ask you questions, be more of a statement or anything. 48 years ago today, I had the honor and privilege of commissioning a United States destroyer called the USS Sample. And we used to tell people that we were the best that the United States had to offer. And today I was also honored in Sun City. We're doing marijuana education. And I was honored to share a sample of the best medication on this planet for the elderly. We've seen results. And with all due respect, sir, your name-calling potheads, it offends me. A lot of name-calling offends me. When we came home, we were all baby killers. All the boys coming home now are heroes. And you know the truth of war, we're both. We're both. And it's a lot to deal with. And I'd like to spend some time with you sometime. And the name you're going to call me right now is Healthy. I've been a patient for 4 years. I've got all my prescription drugs. I've got the doctor's report to prove it. And I'd love for you to join us Monday from noon to 2, Coco's in Sun City. And we'll educate you. I feel sorry for you. You've been deceived.
That there is a distinction between medicinal applications and recreational use.
Recreational use.
Well, then you're violating the law. And I have no respect for you. And I have no respect for you as someone who would try to claim that you served this country and took an oath to uphold the Constitution and defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic, because you're an enemy.
That's right. You just heard the Maricopa County attorney refer to a Vietnam veteran who uses medical marijuana as an enemy, specifically referring to you took an oath to defend the Constitution. So the fact that you're a recreational marijuana consumer makes you an enemy to Maricopa County attorney Bill Montgomery. Well, I have a few words for Maricopa County attorney Bill Montgomery. And I'm not going to say those two, but let's start with some others. First of all, I'd like you to point out that part in the Constitution that says that we cannot use cannabis. It's not in the Constitution. Now, I know your argument would be that the Constitution empowers the government to enact laws through the Congress, and the Congress has enacted a law called the Controlled Substances Act. But I would consider that Controlled Substances Act, with respect to the planting of cannabis hemp in this country, deserves about as much respect as the Dred Scott decision. Our Supreme Court, our Congress, our laws are wrong in this regard. And if, like I mentioned in the poster in the previous segment, that if we can't recognize that the Ninth Amendment of the Constitution, which recognizes that the people have rights that aren't necessarily enumerated in the Constitution. The whole point of the Ninth Amendment is that the default position in America is freedom. That's the default setting. And then it's up to government to show why that shouldn't be the default setting, why that freedom would harm others if it were let to be unfettered. This man served our country in the Vietnam War, a war that many argue we never should have been involved in the first place. This man is likely suffering from any number of conditions brought on by that war, possibly post-traumatic stress disorder, that is so greatly alleviated through the use of medical cannabis. And for an elected official, regardless of how he feels about the particular issue, about the validity of it, regardless of that, for an elected official to resort to name calling against people with whom he disagrees only belies the bankruptcy of his ethics and his morals, the bankruptcy of the logic of his position. People who start name calling have run out of legitimate arguments for their position. It's the first sign you know you're winning. So Bill Montgomery, I would encourage you to take this man up on his offer and get yourself educated about what we now know. You and so many others in positions of authority are working from a position of inertia. Marijuana has always been illegal. Marijuana has always been bad from your perspective. And so it ought to just keep being that way. You've closed your minds, you've closed your ears, you've closed your eyes to what now a majority of the people see is obvious. That marijuana is far less harmful than alcohol. And if we have a society that has determined that given the risk-reward ratio of alcohol, given that most people use alcohol safely and responsibly, but the price we pay is some of them don't, we understand that most people can enjoy a beer at the game, can enjoy a glass of wine at dinner, can enjoy a couple of shots at the bar, and that's a freedom we want to grant to people. And we understand that granting them that freedom means a few of them misbehave, wreck their cars, beat their spouses, puke in the streets, and generally affect the rest of us, many of us who don't drink. Given that we've accepted that, it is ludicrous to be prohibiting something that is far safer, something that causes far less risk. The risk-reward ratio of marijuana is so far afield from what it is for alcohol. We have so much more reward from marijuana. The medical aspects that treat people with physical and psychological ailments, the social aspects that lead people to be more laid back, less violent, the public health trade-off aspect of giving people something else to alter their consciousness with other than a mind-altering pharmaceutical or alcohol. That it just strains credulity to even imagine why we would want to ban marijuana when we accept alcohol. And that blind spot in so many people's thinking is just a legacy of cultural prejudice. It's just a culture war we're talking about here. For anyone to examine the actual facts of marijuana and alcohol in our society, and prescription drugs in our society for that matter, and to try to get any logic out of it, you can't. And when you are in a situation like that, it's kind of like the situation in the cosmos, where scientists know dark matter must exist because they can detect its pull on other things. Likewise, this is a culture war because we can detect its pull on logic. There's no logical reason marijuana should be banned. It must be cultural. And indeed it is. When we go into hour 2, we'll talk more about this culture war against marijuana and its users. We'll also take your calls toll free live at 84-420-RADIO. That's 844-207-2346. You can always learn more at 420radio.org. Catch our replays and our podcast subscriptions there. And follow me at Radical Russ personally and at RB Show 420 for all the show updates. For everyone here at Rolla J Studios, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. it goes down.